Good morning. I'm Penny Voss, a Montessori mum and teacher from Australia. I'm pleased to be talking to you today about our theme for the conference, One World, One Montessori, and getting connected. By way of introduction, I'd like to show you myself and my family in our Montessori context. This is at Treetops Montessori School in Perth. There's me and my eldest daughter with me, and my middle daughter in the middle, and the little one is presenting the planets at the end. Maria Montessori was a fabulous Italian, but she never saw herself as just that. Her vision never stopped at the edges of her world, of her country, not until the edges of her world. She's had a very global vision at all times. Montessori said that preventing conflicts is the work of politics, but establishing peace is the work of education. Clearly, her vision of peace was not something that was just an absence of war. It wasn't just a whole, just a thing not happening, but it was a positive, solid, real thing that needed to be built. When you think about building connections, building something solid, building a lasting global peace, do you think we're really doing everything that we can do? Another thing is that when you think of this kind of peace, can you imagine it without communication? Not just any old communication, not get out of the way, but communication that's respectful and that works in both directions. Isn't that a really essential part of building a positive kind of practical peace? I think it is, and would like to offer you a new way that we can build on this idea to make it truer sooner. This is another 19th century medical practitioner. His name's Ludwig Lazarus Zamenhof, and he also made his great contribution to humanity, not in the field of medicine, but in something completely different. He is the designer of Esperanto, a simple but expressive language which can be used by people from all parts of the globe. You might well think, in one world there's 6,809 languages. Why make it 6,810? Well, my answer to that usually takes about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and I haven't got that long. So today I'm going to just show you some dot points, some brief reasons why you might think that Esperanto belongs in your classroom, and hope that you'll follow up on the website montessoriesperanto.org so that you can fill in the details afterwards. Number one reason why Esperanto belongs in your class is because you can do it. Just like I can do it, we can all do it. Esperanto is so easy that you can learn it as you teach it. This is not possible with other languages. This is a new possibility. And it's important that you do, because unlike the visiting language specialist who comes only sometimes and is sometimes not there, you are always there. You are the most important model for the child in the classroom. If you think it's important enough to learn, they'll think it's important enough. This can't be overstressed. It's really, really important. The second reason why Esperanto belongs in your classroom is because you have time to do it properly. Just think, if you had a certain amount of time and you could teach a child a part of the business of learning to ride a bicycle, just a little bit, like maybe just sit on the seat. Or you could use the same amount of time and teach them to fully ride a tricycle, ride it fast so the wind blows on your face. From the child's point of view, would that be about the same? It wouldn't be the same at all, would it? Because you haven't finished. Montessori teachers know that the point of learning something is to be capable and be able to use it. So sitting on a bicycle doesn't pay off. It doesn't have the intrinsic satisfaction of achievement in it. Well, learning a little bit of a language is a bit the same. So supposing you had 100 hours in class, because you do have a lot of other things to teach, you could teach a little tiny bit of Mandarin or Japanese, a little bit more of Arabic or Russian, a little bit more of Greek or Indonesian. If you taught a European language, you could teach perhaps a sixth. But in Esperanto, you could teach the whole thing, so that it really works, so that your children have a choice of saying it in English or saying it in Esperanto. That is the full achievement. That's the natural place to stop. You might wonder why Esperanto is so different. Why could it be so much faster than the other languages? Well, that's because there's a lot of difference between something that's designed and something that just happened. I can't show you all of the design features of Esperanto here, but I can show you a couple of them. Here's one. There are 28 unique sound symbol pairs. You can see they look mostly like English, with some little additions. There are no exceptions to this rule. There is only one way of making each sound, and there is only one way of reading each symbol. If you know this, you can spell anything that is pronounced clearly in Esperanto right now. If I teach you these sounds, a, bo, so, cho, do, he, fo, go, ho, jo, ho, ho, I, yo, jo, ko, lo, mo, no, o, po, ro, so, sho, to, u, wo, vo, zo. That's how it goes. So if you hear a word like rado, r-a-d-o, you can spell it. That's all there is. In English, just think how long it takes us to learn how to spell. It's huge. And most other languages are, if not as bad, at least a lot more difficult than this. The second design feature I can show you now is the one that allows you to decode correctly straight away. If you know the sounds of each of the symbols, and you know this emphasis rule, that emphasis in Esperanto falls on the second last syllable. This means that you don't go around putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable and sounding silly. In English, it's trial and error really. If you meet a word in writing, you might or might not pronounce it correctly. In Esperanto, there's no reason why you shouldn't already read this sentence correctly. La hundo dormas trankvile. I bet you could even make a guess about what it means. The third reason why Esperanto might have a place in your classroom is because of the unique opportunity it offers you for global connection. Esperanto has a wider range than any language with the possible exception of English. And if English is your first language, then that's not really an opportunity for you to have a first foreign language, is it? All of the countries that are coloured in green on this map have a national Esperanto association. The grey countries may have a few scattered speakers, they might have regional associations, but on the whole they don't have national associations, although I do notice that Burundi is not coloured in because their national association was formed in recent years. This means that you could reasonably make contact with primary school classes in most of the countries that would occur to you to do that. I'd like to show you some of the classes around the world who are using Esperanto as their first foreign language. There are lots of them. There are dozens, maybe 100, but at the moment I'll just show you a few. This one is in Germany. This little class is in China. I met their teacher in China last month. These are in Hungary. These are in Nepal. These are in India. And these ones in Brazil. If you want to see more on the montessoriesperanto.org website, there are a few more to see. The fourth reason that you might like Esperanto in your classroom is because it makes the next language easier. I'll show you an example of one of the studies that has proven that this to be the case. In this experiment, a group of children was split into two. One group of the children were taught Japanese for 200 hours. The other group were taught Esperanto for 100 hours and Japanese for 100 hours. It might surprise you that the second group, who had spent half as long learning Japanese, did much better in Japanese. The usual explanation for this is that it helps you to have something like a map or a model or some sort of outline of something before you deal with the complicated reality of the thing. So you might look at a map before you go to a city. You might use an anatomical model before you launch straight into dissecting a body, because bodies are more complicated than models and cities are more complicated than maps. But the map and the model explain the main things, the things that you really need to notice. It doesn't matter so much if you don't notice every single little detail. I before E except after C is not the most important thing in the English language, but the difference between a past tense verb and a present tense verb is pretty big, and you need to notice that. So learning Esperanto allows you to learn the big things that are big things in every language, and that will help you to learn the complicated language afterwards. Reason number 5, reject mediocrity. Go on, do it. You didn't become a Montessori teacher so you could be ordinary. Your parents are not sending their children to you because they want ordinary. They want better. Montessori wanted better. She didn't say, oh, well, it's what I had. It was good enough for me. Oh, well, they've always done it that way. It's not so bad. It's all right. No, she didn't. She said you could do better, and we can do better. At the moment, most of the children who are learning languages in schools will never, ever be fluent. They won't be able to use it. This isn't good. This is not good enough. We can do better. Look here. This picture is my daughter, age 11, teaching in the children's house. She's learnt enough Esperanto that she can be a teacher now, and these children are enjoying learning. This is properly integrated into the Montessori system, and it's working nicely. I think Dr. Montessori would be pleased with this. The 6th reason is because we want to give our children values. We want to give them substance, so that when people tell them that silly things matter, they'll say, no, they don't. We know what matters. We'll teach them what matters by showing them the things that we consider great. If we celebrate wisdom and justice and diligence, they will understand that these are things to be valued. These are the things that they can find in themselves and respect in themselves. And they can be strong enough to say, it most certainly is not all about that silly stuff. So this is my daughter Heidi being excited about Esperanto, because Esperanto, she's been taught, is a fair solution. It's a smart thing to do. It's very smart to think of a solution which is good for everybody. It doesn't hurt. There are no losers in this. Well, she's been taught that that's a good thing. And she's been taught that it's a good thing to have the courage of your convictions and to stick with something even if other people don't respect it at the time, and to persevere until it's finished. And in this case, the thing that she learnt about was Esperanto. And amazing though it would seem, that one person could make up a language and it would be spoken by millions of people around the world. I mean, fancy that. Would you think it's possible? But he did. And it is. It's inspiring. It's inspiring in a similar sort of way to the way that we find Montessori's work itself to be inspiring. It was great of her to be so wise. It was great of her to be so brave. It was great of her to keep on doing and making it work. And we're grateful for the example. And we should look for more of these examples, because they enrich our children in a very special way.